We're looking for variations though, so go ahead and pop open variations. And you'll get this dialog box here. Now, let me give you a kind of a quick tour of the dialog box before we really get rolling. Up in the top area of the dialog box, we have the original image, and then we have the current pick. What they mean by the current pick is once we start applying some color correction to our image, we'll get sort of a preview of our current image beside the original version of our image, if that makes sense. We can adjust the shadows, the midtones, and the highlights of our images, as well as the saturation of our images, or the amount of color that's being applied to our images. We can also adjust the fineness or the coarseness of this variations effect on our image as well. So you might want to play around with some of these commands. And then inside the main area of the variations dialog box, we have colors. More yellow, more green, more cyan, more blue, more magenta, more red. And then in the dead center, we have the current pick. The colors that we see inside the main area of the variations dialog box here are equidistant colors on the color wheel. In other words, they're 60 degrees apart from one another on the color wheel, if you remember your color theory and your color wheel from back in school. And over on the right-hand side, we have lighter, current pick, and darker. So we can certainly adjust the amount of lightness or darkness inside our images as well. So it's a really easy command to work with. For example, I could add in more yellow just by clicking on the more yellow swatch there, and that'll load more yellow into my current pick. I could make them darker if I wanted to just by single clicking on the darker swatch there, or lighter by clicking on the lighter swatch, and so on. It's a very easy command to work with here, as you can see. Now, obviously what I've done here is I've completely obliterated my image. So rather than canceling out of the dialog box and then going back into variations, all I need to do is just single click on the original swatch or the original thumbnail up in the top left corner, and that resets the dialog box, or that takes me all the way back to the original version of the image, if you will. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention as well, notice that all of these thumbnails, all of these swatches say more. So more red, more magenta, more cyan, and so on. There's no less of anything. Well, how it works here is more red, applying more red to my image is the same as saying less cyan, because they're all opposites here. Red is the opposite to cyan, for example, or green is the opposite to magenta. So that's the deal there, in case you were wondering. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to see what I can do about fixing up this image just a little bit. I'm going to go with one shot of yellow, so I'll single click on yellow once. I'll do one shot of cyan. I'll do a single shot of blue, just like that. And then maybe what I'll do is I'll go one shot darker, just to sort of darken up the image there a little bit, bring out the blacks inside the image. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on OK inside the variations dialog box. And then Photoshop goes and applies the